419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Hey, welcome into the 419, powered by WGTE, presented by Wheatro Wealth Management. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam.
It is our special Friday surprised guest edition of the 419, and Gretchen, as I think has been the trend on this show, it is your surprise guest. At some point, we will have Matt and I will get a shot at this.
A true rotation.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
you will.
But no, we won't. But for now, this is
today,
another one of your surprise guests.
Yes, I'm very excited to have this person on today.
We know it's a woman.
Yeah,
So
we
were
did
tipped
say
off to
yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We did.
Yeah.
We ended the show with "We will talk with
Yeah.
a woman."
Yeah, the phones have been burning with people guessing just on
Okay.
that clue.
Yeah. Well, you narrowed it down to about half the population.
That's
Yep.
right. That's right.
Yeah, love it.
Can we talk about the Super Bowl finally?
We can.
I'm trying to talk about it it's
If we have to.
We've talked about it, but we've talked about wanting to talk about it.
Yes,
And I
Gretchen-
know that Gretchen's the one that's been really pushing.
big
to
sports
talk
fan.
about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Have you placed any bets already?
No, because I don't know who's playing in it.
If you had to guess who is playing in it.
I know that it's not Taylor Swift's boyfriend's team,
That's right.
Which is
the Chiefs,
That's right. Good for you.
and I'm from Kansas City, Topeka, so I know the Chiefs.
You're not from Kansas City.
The adjacent, an hour away.
That's right.
I remember on the podcast Gretchen not remembering where she went to college.
Sure.
So this is great.
Yeah.
I'm from Kansas
It was
City.
multiple places in my defense.
No,
Yeah.
you aren't. Okay, so
So I know it's not them, and I know Tom Brady doesn't play anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Will
I
you
mean, I
watch
don't-
it at all, or have
I
people?
will watch Bad Bunny
Yeah.
for
okay.
sure.
All right.
For sure. I will watch that.
okay. Have you been studying your Spanish?
I have. He's been doing all these promos. He has this new thing with Adidas and launched this whole line of shoes. I watched the Grammys. I'm ready. I'm ready to watch the halftime
What is
show.
the intrigue with Bad Bunny?
Have you seen him?
Yes.
Then you know what the intrigue is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That doesn't. Yeah.
It's very
I get
subjective. I expected something deeper from you, Gretchen.
No.
Like it's
Oh,
his
that's-
personality and the way he gives
Well,
back
it's
to his
the
community
culture.
and
Sure.
the culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just like the way he looks.
No.
No. Will you go to someone's house or? You,
No. I no plans yet. Are you having people over?
No, not now. No, it just canceled.
So who is playing in the Super Bowl?
It is the Seahawks and Tom Brady's former team.
The Patriots.
That's right. They're good for you. Yep.
Okay, that was impressive.
Was your dad a sports fan?
Yes, but interestingly, he was a huge fan of NASCAR.
You're kidding me.
NASCAR worshiper.
Yeah.
You could name a sponsor, you could name a driver, and he would know every single one of their sponsors, their thing.
Is that because he's worked with Dana, or he'd always been?
I just think maybe, but he just loved cars. We went up to MIS and did the races all the time.
This is.
For his birthday one year, we did a NASCAR experience for him, and he got to go and
Just sit in
drive
your
the
car in the driveway?
Yeah, we drove real fast out
Yeah.
the driveway.
See, I believe that NASCAR and wrestling, that if you know the backstory, right? If you actually know something about the athlete,
Sure.
then you're more into it, right? So when I watch NASCAR, I see a car drive past a car.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know the bad blood between those drivers or that they used to be on the same team.
The theater of it.
Yeah, I don't know any of that.
A live NASCAR event is something that everyone should experience.
It
It's
is.
really cool. It's
Yeah.
actually really interesting. The people watching you think Cedar Point is a good trip for people watching. This NASCAR takes that to the next level. But there is a fascinating component of it.
Yeah.
You can get headsets and listen to how the pit talks. There's fuel calculations being done by scientists. I'm watching it on TV is a recipe for to.
It used to drive my mother crazy because all you would hear from the other room is, that sound of them going around
That was their
the track.
lovemaking.
Yikes.
Okay.
Oh my goodness! All right, Gretchen.
Get out of this
it
immediately.
is your guest. We've already established that it's
It's Tom.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's right.
If only.
Any
Tom
other
Brady's
clues?
Yes.
All right. He is actually handsome. I met him in person. He's stunning.
Any other hints? It's not Tom Brady.
This person is a juxtaposition unto herself.
What a dumb clue.
If you know what that is, please call the helpline.
The creator of Guess Who is rolling over in his or her grave.
Man, yeah.
You guys
All
will
right.
understand
We will
eventually.
figure out who Gretchen's surprise guest is
They probably
on the
know
other side of
themselves.
this break. It's the 419 on WGTE.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Introducing The Local Thread, a community news series uniting voices and storytellers from across the region. In partnership with La Prensa, the Toledo Free Press, the Sojourner's Truth, Toledo Public Schools, and veteran journalist Jerry Anderson. The Local Thread brings you stories and conversations that connect our community. Hear it weeknights at 7 on FM 91 with early access on podcast platforms each morning. The Local Thread, only on WGTE.
Welcome back into the 419. It is our surprise guest edition of the 419. And Gretchen, it is your guest today.
It is.
Tell us who you've invited to be on the program.
So for those that don't know what juxtaposition means, it's
Which is everyone.
No, it's not that I don't know what
I don't know how well you know our audience.
Yeah.
That's true. It is WGTE.
yeah, the core
just some dumb
WGT
podcast anymore.
Yeah, the core WGT audience knows what juxtaposition means. But
I don't know that you do.
It's two opposing things that happen at the same time. Basically, you're in a position, but it's this other weird thing that happens at the same time. So this explains my guest, in my opinion. She went to both BG and the University of Toledo, right?
That's the big
Odd,
difference.
right?
Okay.
She has a degree in teaching theater, but she's also a licensed social worker. Master's degree in that. She's British, lives in the United States, lives here in Toledo.
I still
Maybe I've gone
I still
too far
think
on
you
this.
don't know what juxtaposition means.
She's
It's
the
like jumbo
founder
shrimp.
and director of the Issue Box Theater here in Toledo. Our guest is Rosie Best.
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Thank God we got out of that.
That was torturous.
Yeah, WGT used to be a beacon for education until that snippet.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to know that neither Matt nor Kevin, it doesn't seem like either
don't
one of
think
them
so.
have met you. So
I know I've met might be a strong term, but I know we've been in the same room at some time, but I cannot place where it is, and I have the next 30 minutes to figure it out.
okay, great.
There you go.
Let's start at the very beginning.
30 years ago, I came to this country.
Yes.
So, and I've been here ever since.
What did you come for?
So I came to visit with a church, and I was helping them sort out their youth pastoring needs. I had come to visit, and somebody from the church, and ended up, long story short, went back to England, got a religious worker visa, came back on that, got my green card, got my, now I'm a citizen, so yeah,
Right.
but 30 years, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
And you had a guest the other week, Dave Gerke, and I used to teach in the room next to Dave Gerke.
No.
And he was very passive aggressive. Well, maybe there wasn't much passive about it, but
He was
I also
aggressive, aggressive.
I also
he was
enjoyed
aggressive.
Yeah, he was
used to put the
juxtaposed.
lyrics of "God Save the Queen" by the Sex Pistols. He used to put those under my door.
Yeah.
And then when people would come in to audition for the school, he'd say, "Now that woman next door, she's going to be doing an accent. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's British.
Yeah, she's from Fremont.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And so you know, don't let her get away with it, kind of thing." So yeah, I was at Toledo School for the Arts for 10 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
What were you teaching there?
I
You
was
theater?
teaching theatre. Yeah, I had just got in fact, I got my Master of Arts in teaching theatre like about a year and a half in. So I already had my undergraduate degree in theatre, and I was getting that. And then I was exhausted after 10 years teaching there because it was a lot, and I thought I had a great plan of what I was going to do, and then that didn't work out, and so I found myself going, you know, I've got this spiritual bit and I've got this theatre bit, and I'm really interested in helping young people become all they can be. I guess that's the best way to put it. And so I went and got my master's in social work at the University of Toledo. So I was back there. So I did my undergraduate there in theatre, and did BG was other stuff, and then back to UT.
Tell us about your family back in England. Do you have siblings, parents that are still there?
Yes, I'm the youngest of 5 children, and my dad died actually when I was 19, which was very sad. But my mom was still alive until several years ago. But I still have, I have 2 brothers who remain alive, and my sister. And then a while ago, my nephew from my sister's child, he decided he wanted to come over here and study his MBA.
Oh, nice.
And so he is also in this country and found himself a very lovely wife, and they have 2 lovely kids who...
So you guys are colonizing again.
Exactly, we're taking it back.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Well,
not fast enough.
I was going to say that there's so much material there. I'm not sure whether I should,
That's the whole show.
Yes.
So tell us what the Issue Box Theater is, and how you decided to start that.
Yeah, so there I was. I love theater.
Now, where did that come from? I don't know if we circle back on that. Your family is all artists, all creatives?
No. My dad was a pharmacist, but he was a very incredible storyteller.
All right.
So in Ireland, they have a phrase which is, you're a queer gag, which means you're sort of funny. So he was a queer gag.
Yeah.
And my mom was a singer, and she would like.
How did these 2 meet?
Right. So, funny story.
Yeah. He was selling pharmaceuticals in an alley.
No, they were living in Belfast.
Sure.
So
Center for Comedy.
Dad was a pharmaceutical, intern or whatever they were, and my mom was a nurse.
Oh.
She was training as a nurse, and they used to send the pharmaceutical. Was it somehow one of them would get sent to the stores to pick up a pair of fallopian tubes, or they would be sent down to the stores to get the big weight.
Okay.
And then after they'd been standing there for a while, they'd say, "Have you waited long enough?" And it was all
a gag.
All a gag.
Yeah.
Yes.
Similar in the restaurant business, you would send the newest person to an adjacent restaurant. I worked for a group that had several on the same street, and we would send the new person to go get the oven warmer.
Okay.
Or have somebody empty the hot water in the coffee machine, and it was a way to
initiate the
right.
When your kid
news.
gets their driver's license, you make them go to the auto parts store to get the blinker fluid.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also
total
saying
setup.
we're buying time as Kevin Googles fallopian tubes.
I will say no. When you said
the juxtaposition, juxtaposition tubes.
We're never going to be past that one.
I mean, I've heard that the healthcare in the U.S. is significantly better than the rest of the world. And when you said you had to go to the store to get fallopian tubes, I was like, I confirmed.
I believe it.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
So,
if you don't,
I have spent time as a therapist. So how long have you been in denial about that?
And what has the public school system done to you?
Yeah.
But your dad, your storytelling dad. Do you have a favorite anecdote or something that you cherish in memory of something?
So many. But one that immediately comes to mind is that we had gone to this Renaissance fair or something like this.
Sure.
And my brother was newly driving, so he was maybe 16 or 17, and he had parked at this fair, and he was on his own in this car. And then later on, my dad's coming home, and he sees his car parked there. And my dad writes this note, and it's like, this is the worst parking job. This is the worst parking job I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then he signed it, Owen Lee, kidding.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But his writing was a mess. But anyway, so my brother gets this, and he goes off, and he's like, "What is going on? Who did this?" And he goes to Well, then he comes back home later that night and he's like, and I told those people that this was, and my dad is just cracking up laughing because it was.
Because he's own.
He was like, got him.
Yeah, oh, I love it.
He was a very, very humorous, very well loved in the community.
Yeah.
When he died, there was this one guy who was a farmer who lived up the street, and he drove his tractor down in his three-piece suit.
Oh my gosh.
Because he was like, I wanted to be there for your dad, but I didn't. The wife had the car,
Sure.
so he comes down the road in his
Yeah.
tractor in his three-piece suit.
Yeah.
And then because he was a very popular man, and because of when we had the funeral, at the end of the service, they started playing the Hallelujah chorus because we knew it was a certain length of time, and the family had to get out to get into the cars to get to the crematorium before it closed.
Yeah.
And so they didn't, and they knew that everybody was going to want to speak to us because, you know, everybody had anecdotes about my dad.
Yeah.
So they played the Hallelujah. We shut out.
Yeah.
And my brother said, yeah, it'll be a burn up to the burn up.
Yeah, right. So the whole family, yeah.
It was sort of totally irreverent, you know, and yeah.
And where does the religious
So
part of your life come from?
Yeah, so both my parents were Methodist local preachers. And that was supposed to happen in March 1965. They were going to take their final preaching tests and everything. And because they had finished having their family, and that was all going to be that, and then, oops, I spoiled the plans. And so they realized by the time March 65 came along, my mom would be too pregnant to get up into one of the country pulpits.
Oh my gosh.
So she had to do her exam in January 65 because there was still a couple of months to go with me. So I always say that the first seminary I went to was in utero.
That's right. You were ordained then.
I was, I baptized in the water, whatever. Let's stop that one before we finish here.
Back to the fallopian tubes.
What the hell are they again?
There's a theme here.
That's right. Yeah, our first time ever having the
So Gretchen had asked.
Methodists are Baptists that can read, right? That's what my grandfather always said.
Is that right?
I
always used to hear that Baptists were wet all over.
There we go. Now we need to move quickly.
So Gretchen had asked the question I want to get back to. What is the Issue Box Theater?
So it is the marriage of theatre and community and education. Our mission is to create space for human dignity using the arts for social justice. So we are not like any other theatre company in town in that we are not just sitting down at one point in the season and say, let's come up with a season of what's popular, what's going to bring in the money. Like if I could do that, then I probably would be making bank. But we sort of sit and we go, what is the issue that we need to be thinking about right now? So our most recent performance was a piece called What the Constitution Means to Me. And that was written by Heidi Schreck.
Okay.
And she talks as a 15-year-old girl about going to constitutional competitions, and she loved the Constitution, but then she suddenly realizes that women are not mentioned in the Constitution, and then she draws a line about how violence against women is very problematic, and maybe it's because people don't understand the history of the fact that women are missing in the Constitution and that women have been misrepresented, and there weren't enough women, so that they had to bring in these mail order brides from Gengenbach, Germany. And then she stops and she says, but it's not that there weren't enough women, it's that they weren't counting the people of color or the indigenous women. And it is a really powerful piece, and Rebecca Facey played Heidi when we did it, and just was brilliant. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
I saw it. I was going to bring that up. She's not an actress.
She is not.
She's the City of Toledo prosecutor in Toledo Municipal Court. She's a lawyer. But she was absolutely spectacular in it. It was a sold-out crowd at the theater at the library.
It's amazing because our only experience with lawyers on this show is that they're talentless personality-less group a lot.
There's
Yeah.
a real juxtaposition between
Neil,
talent
yes.
and
And that's the show. We've come full circle. We just picked one word. It's like Pee-wee's Playhouse. The chair
We all have to do a dance when
the
it's-
chair
when it's
announces,
said.
well, dances. Yes.
And so that was a piece, was wondering about this. That was a piece that was already performed other places.
Yes.
You found it.
I actually saw it
Okay.
in New York with Heidi Schreck playing the lead character.
Okay.
And I knew, I was like, I got to bring this back.
Cool.
But then it's because it's about an hour and 15 or an hour and 30, and it's like, but who's going to be Heidi?
Yeah.
And
Is it hour and 30 the same in American time as it is in British time? What's the
Yeah.
conversion rate there? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how the metric
So-
system works.
it-
Is it 9 hours? It's not a science-based show.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay. That's a perfectly good answer.
So I don't know if it's right to use the word juxtaposition, but maybe
We don't either.
at the same time, Rebecca had heard some interviews on NPR about Heidi Schreck, and because Rebecca's work has been so much around domestic violence and working to make sure that justice happens, she heard about this show and was like, oh, I want to do this show. And Angie, her wife, was my supervisor when I was at RFS.
Okay.
And it's kind of like I'm having a conversation with Angie, and she's like, yeah. I said, you need to get Rebecca this piece because I think she would love it. And she heard about it, and then
yeah.
conversation happens, and boom.
Yeah.
And we did it twice, actually. So the first time we did it, we presented it at the Law Auditorium
Sure.
at the University of Toledo, and we got we often get different crowds to our theatre pieces because of the way we do things. The one at the library was free to anyone who wanted to show up. You could reserve tickets, but because of the library, and you can't then take extra money because the tax
Yes, ma'am.
levies and all that sort of thing. Again, stuff I don't really understand. But so it was done free for the community, and the mayor was there, and there were lots of people who, I'm still hearing from people to say that was
wonderful.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of that piece, they have a 15-year-old girl who comes in to represent who Heidi was when she discovered the Constitution and came to understand it. And, I think a really important piece for right now, because we're seeing that things that have been just assumed as being right, and it's in the Constitution. I mean, I've spent 30 years hearing that. Well, why can't you do that? Because it's in the Constitution. And now it seems that it's like, well,
Yeah.
and sometimes this current climate feels unrecognizable from the place I arrived at 30
Certainly.
years ago. So.
All right, so let's take a quick break. When we come back, I do want to talk about, we talked a little bit about kind of scheduling, and kind of how you build your season. But I'm curious kind of what that lead time looks like and where the inspiration for the next big issue comes from. So we'll continue that conversation on the other side of the break. Stick with us. It's the 419.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a t-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end.
It's a story, it's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to Get Out and Play Day.
Monday through Friday, it's the 419 powered by WGTE. With Matt Killam, Gretchen DeBacker, I'm Kevin Mullen. What can people expect on the show?
It's going to be an hour, a reminder of why this is a great place to live, work, and play.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419. We're talking with Rosie Best from the Issue Box Theater. Before the break, I said I'm really interested because you had talked about, different from a traditional theater that sits down at the beginning of the year or maybe even a year or two out and says, this is what our season is going to be. Here's the popular shows, here's the trends.
This will drive an audience, right? That isn't.
You're really looking sort of in the moment saying, what's the conversation our community needs to be having right now? So how far out are you making decisions on shows?
And who all it plays a part of that, if you don't mind talking about the construct?
So there's a board, but the board that I work with are just amazing and are really very supportive of things that I bring to the board. So in the past we've done shows about suicide. We've done shows about people living with dementia. We've done shows about somebody with a mental health diagnosis that rocks that was actually our first show, was Next to Normal.
And when I know a lot about Issue Box, and I know that it's really meaningful work, but I don't know when was day one? When did this start?
15. So February 15 was our first performance. Not February. February in 2015.
Sure.
So last year we had our 10th anniversary.
How about that?
Yay!
I did not know that. I'm embarrassed.
We kind of put it together with my 60th birthday, so it's like, yay!
Yeah, that's why we had the show today, to celebrate your birthday.
Oh.
Surprise?
No. Yeah, okay.
Okay. The ice cream cake is not in great shape.
Yeah, we did a fundraiser called Miscast, which was really fun, and people got to play a role that they never would. So I played, I did the song, You Got to Pick a Pocket or Two, because I thought that was appropriate for a fundraiser. And
then you played Hallelujah, so you could take some extra time taking money out.
Well, I did it like a drag performance. So I actually started pulling dollars from people, and I made like $58.
How about that?
In the time that it takes to sing that.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, I'm going to give up my job.
Change my job. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, right.
That could be intermission for every show forever.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, we have two main programs that we do. We have the See Me program, which is where we put on shows, and it's like we want to elevate or amplify this voice or this issue. And sometimes it is a specific play, like What the Constitution Means to Me, or sometimes it is talking with local people in the community who feel marginalized by an experience they've had, whether it's a mental health diagnosis or that they're gay or that they have a medical condition. But something that, like, it's amazing how many people who have disability placards and have invisible disabilities and kind of deal with idiots who say, well, you don't look like you're in bad shape.
No, that's the first time I've heard an American accent out of you. So that's
and
nothing.
Probably the last.
Nothing offensive about that.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's right. The one impersonation of an idiot is oddly familiar to me. Sounds just like my voice.
And I've heard the depictions, so doing some work with the Ability Center, that that's a minority community. That's the only one that you can suddenly find yourself a part of, right?
Yes. And often the one that you never wanted to belong to. For me, that experience happened when I came out, because the church that I was at said, get out of here, we don't want to see you again. And I said, I hope that this never happens to any of your children. They said to me, we'll do a Bible study to find out where you're wrong. And I said, well, I will if you will. And they went, but we're not. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So See Me is really anybody who has...
May I ask how old you were when that experience happened to you?
That would have been 24 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was here in Toledo.
Sure.
A lot of people who knew me then, who still have connection with me, say that it was, just a horrible, horrible thing. I mean, because I was told never to go back, and I haven't.
Yeah.
But that, that's what they needed to do.
Your inclusion message, though, is even more important, right? Because you've walked this walk.
Yeah.
Had gone through a heartbreak. you've had loss with important people in your life, but this was certainly a divorce
Yes.
and a loss and heartbreaking.
Yes.
So you can talk about firsthand, having, Issue Box talk about this, not just from something that we all accept being difficult, you've felt it.
Yes.
Which makes...
Well, so here's the thing. Creating space for human dignity. We all need to be seen with dignity, whatever our story is. We go and we do storytelling for people living with dementia. And it's just such a joy, because so many people say, oh, so-and-so's just got dementia, and and it's, yes, there are some very tragic things about end-stage dementia, but there are also people who are living with dementia. I have a friend, Nia. She was diagnosed when she was 45.
Oh my goodness.
And she had to be discharged from the Air Force, but she moved from where she was living, I think it was Texas, up to Iowa to live closer to her son, and she became a pageant queen.
Sure.
Seriously.
Classic story.
Seriously.
Yep.
Like
that could be a movie.
I mean, so many people would have just written her off, and now she's doing these glamour shots in magazines. And one of the things that she says that I always think is so aspirational is, like, I have dementia, but dementia doesn't have me.
Yeah.
And I think that, that people want to be seen and heard. I go once a month to Cherry Street for coffee and conversations. And there's no agenda. It's not like, are you getting the help you need or anything like that. It's just, hey, how's it going? Whatever you want to talk about is part of what we talk about.
Issue Box does such a good job with certainly the content, but about the spaces that you go into. I know that you've done stuff with St. Michael's on the Hills in Ottawa Hills. You mentioned Cherry Street. I went to a show that our friend Riley Reynolds directed that was at the planetarium at the University of Toledo. They performed in the planetarium space. We talked with the library. What is the decision making or the thinking when trying to choose the space to do these?
So it was a very intentional decision early on that we don't have a theatre.
Sure.
And what that frees us to do is to take the show where we think it belongs.
Yes, ma'am.
So, for instance, what the Constitution means to me when we first did it, the law library, because where would people who are studying the law, trying to understand the law, need to hear different things about it, where would they be? Well, then, once we'd performed it and we thought that that was done, kind of thing, the Steinem sisters, which is part of the library, their book collection, they did a talk about it, and I called Rebecca and I said, hey, I think we need to go. And so we did, and out of that came this conversation about let's bring it back and bring it to the library. So yeah.
On top of the geography, I mean, there are an overwhelming and feels like ever-growing amount of issues that need to be talked about. How does the group that decides, the board or yourself, how do you decide what's next? Or is it a voting process? What's the democracy, which I know you people are against based on the monarchy? Is there a queen, and am I talking to her?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not amused.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you're not the first person to say that to me, and you won't be the last even today. But I do, every one of these things that are issues, you mentioned 3 of them in our show, that they're all, you could do a lifetime series on them every year, but how is this decided?
So a lot of it comes from me, bringing things to the board and saying, look, I think we need to do something about this. I have a play that I would like to do. So we always do something in conjunction with the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference. And this year, I would like to do something about people who have been released from death row. I haven't yet secured the rights, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to say it's this show. But we also just got a grant, the arts and culture.
Yes.
We were one of those people.
Yes, ma'am.
So I've been doing this work with Cherry Street, just going in coffee conversation. I've been doing this work with having people tell their story. Nora Riggs is at Cherry Street. I do a lot of work at the Thomas Wernert Center. And then this playwright suddenly appears on the landscape and says, hey, I'm a social worker and I've written this play and it was performed on Boston Common in 2008 and I'm updating it. Have you got any interest? And that's Rachel Daly. And so now the three of us start to sit together and look at what this could be like and what would it look like if it was an issue box piece. And so we wrote a grant, well, I wrote a grant and they helped me, in order to get funding so that we want to have people who are currently unhoused perform in this piece. We will be able to give them stipends for their time. But also, we're going to have they are going to have an opportunity to tell their story in interludes within this play. So
interesting.
That is a really
the other
interesting
day,
idea.
I'm doing my coffee and conversation, and it was one of my people who comes fairly regularly to the group, and I was saying, you know, so we've got this idea and we've got this thing, and he said, you know what? He said, you need to do a scene or have several people act about what it's like to pack up in the morning.
Yes, interesting.
And I was like, oh my gosh. He said, because people don't really think, like, we all go through that process of getting ready for the day, but we don't necessarily think about what would it look like if I can't come straight back here. I've got to take everything.
Everything, yes.
And one of the things that shocked me was the statistic that between 2024 and 2025, the amount of people in the Cherry Street went from 1,000 and something to 2,000 and something. And 51% of those people were experiencing homelessness for the first time. So all of this, you know, that I grew up with, well, if people don't, you know, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and all that stuff.
American again.
That's two.
Yeah.
I was going for north of England.
That's
but
right.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this grant because we had a conversation last week with Mark Folk.
Which was miserable.
Okay. I can understand.
He's a miserable
The
person.
Community Foundation, you know, this arts and culture grant, over $500,000 invested in different projects around our community. Weren't you guys? I thought you guys were in on that.
Yeah, she said we didn't get all of it.
Oh yeah. I was like, wait a second. You
Kevin's not a strong listener.
Yeah. So you know, you could do a show about folks experiencing homelessness without connecting directly with the community, but this grant sort of really enables this merger between, you know, nonprofit organization, artists, and community, and that's such a really special piece.
Yeah.
Well said.
I mean, so again, one of my sort of early ideas or thoughts was that theatre can be very elitist, right? You have to go to a special place. You have to be able to sit there for 2.5, 3 hours. You have to be able to buy a ticket. You have to be able, you know, all these things. You have to have the transport to get to this specific place in town. And what about the people who don't get to go there? What about them? Don't they deserve the arts too? And so for me, you know, we did a piece 2 years ago called The Willard Suitcases, and it was about 427 pieces of luggage that were found at it was originally called the Willard Asylum for the Chronic Insane, because nothing makes you feel better than being told you're chronically insane, right? And I did look at you particularly when I said that.
And you're not wrong.
Not the first one to do that,
That's
right?
No.
But Julianne Wick-Davis and John Crispin took the photos. Julianne Wick-Davis wrote the music and the lyrics for this. But the opening song of that piece is, what would you pack? If you were going to go to an asylum, what would you pack? And it really got me thinking. So again, when I'm talking to this young man last week, and he said about there should be a scene about packing up for the morning, I was like, all I could hear was that song coming in, you know. So we need, so this project that we're doing, this is important, is called the Belonging Project. We're not calling it the Homeless Project, we're calling it the Belonging Project, because all of us want to belong. We have a yearning and a drive. Maslow, who did the triangle, right? He put belonging like right in the middle of the triangle. But guess what? He wasn't studying belonging.
Right.
The social psychologists who have come after him said belonging should be right down there at the bottom. And he took, I'm
But
reading.
also the top of the pyramid is about survival, right? As opposed to functionality and a higher purpose, right?
Well, yes, you
Beside
could go.
my point, I agree with you completely.
No, right. So what I'm talking about though is that, like, there's a paradox that sometimes in order to belong, we make others not belonging, right? Churches do this, right? Well, you belonged, we loved you, you were on our staff, we loved you until you made that one decision. And we think we understand these 9 verses in a certain way, so you got to get out, right? Well, I did a year at what is a seminary back in England, right? And it's like, you know, that's actually not the way to understand those verses. But like, you have to have intention and curiosity to lean in and investigate. Sometimes we do the process a lot of people talk about in terms of the Bible, for instance, is exegesis. I'm going to extract from this text everything that's there. What unfortunately happens more often is that people use eisegesis, which says, in my mind,
right,
this is wrong. So now where can I find it? In here, I got my verses here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a fundamental. I have found more people talk about who they are in a lens of what they are not. Right? They talk about not what they're for, what they believe in, or what they love. But a lot of people start the conversation or answer that question with, these are things that I don't like.
Or believe they should be against something and then try to find the evidence to
I
support.
think that's what you've just
Right,
articulated.
right.
And there's no easy transition
Bible or not,
into the
yeah.
dumb part of our show.
So inevitably, it always seems like we run out of time, which means we need to have you back on.
Okay.
You guys are doing incredible work at Issue Box Theater.
Thank you.
And I don't want to like narrow it down to say it's this organization. Rosie, you're doing incredible work in the community, so thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people find out more information about
our website, www.issueboxtheatre.org.
Okay.
Or they can email me at rosie@issueboxtheatre.org.
How did you think of that creative email handle?
All right, here we go. It's now time for
transition to the quiz.
Gretchen's
Quiz.
Wacky Quiz.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Please keep that energy. You're going to need it.
All right, 4 rapid fire questions for me. Gretchen's asking for your favorite thing, and you need 9 words to describe.
I wrote them down.
Toledo.
I listened to Gerke's thing so I could be sure that.
Perfect.
That's under criminal investigation.
Don't set the bar at Gerke.
Yeah, there's no bar at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there's a bar there. All right. Question number 1. What's your favorite movie line?
This may be a cultural thing. Are you being stupid or merely ignorant?
Is that a question for me?
It's from the Shadowlands.
Oh, okay. Never seen it.
This may be a cultural thing. Are you being stupid or just ignorant?
I love it.
Joy Davidman said it to the Dons at Oxford when they were saying about all the things
It's also
women.
in Teen Wolf 2.
What does a perfect day look like for you?
Nowadays, relaxing, spending time with the dogs and our cat, TC, drinking coffee with friends, maybe a dinner out or a dinner in. Anymore it's kind of easy.
Rosie, we just said one thing. Please, for God's sake, stop your answer.
What animal would you be in another life?
Probably a dog. I did play a dog once when I was at the University of Toledo, and Sylvia was the show. Yeah, probably a dog.
What achievement are you most proud of?
I have grown a lot of things, and then walked away, maybe too early. I don't know. Like when I started at TSA, there was 3 part-time staff, and when I left the theatre department, there was 3 full-time staff, and 2 full-time staff and a part-time staff teaching theatre, and there was also a full-time tech director. And I think now there's 2. So it was the little department that could when I started there.
All right,
What's
we got
your
30 seconds.
the number 1 best or favorite thing about the city of Toledo or the region?
There's so many possibilities.
Okay.
All right.
Now they're 9.
Here's the
sorry.
tough, the 9 words.
My 9 words.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcoming.
Yep.
Curious.
Yes.
Home.
All right, we're doing it.
Artistic.
Yes.
Vibrant.
Got it.
All seasons, sometimes in one day.
keep
accessible,
yes,
affordable,
yep,
aspirational.
Yes.
Yeah, nailed
Rosie
it. All right.
Best with the Issue Box Theater. Rosie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being
It was
here.
a pleasure.
Pleasure was ours.
When we come back, we're going to be welcomed by or joined by Jonelle Massey, who's got a mental health summit for student athletes coming up. We'll learn a little bit more about that. It's the 419, powered by WGTE.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARTA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarta.com.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management. We're joined now by Jonelle Massey. Thank you so much for being with us. Yes. You've got a lot going on, but you've got a big event coming up. I guess let's maybe back up a little bit. Agility Counseling is your organization. What does Agility Counseling do?
Everything. No.
And that's the show.
It's a private practice. It's only about 3 years old because I'm a coach's wife, and so I've moved around in this country. And have been a mental health therapist in different arenas, including the schools and hospitals. And
of all the places you've lived, what was the least mentally healthy place?
Olean, New York.
There you go, right?
Yes, yes. It is an hour and a half south of Buffalo, and I don't ski, and I lived on a ski resort. So, yeah, snowing in April, not a fan. No. Right. But so I decided to go out on my own in private practice, and so now I see a lot of folks, mostly high school, college, and professional athletes, and picking up a lot of retired athletes, and I don't think that's by mistake.
You've got a summit coming up called the Athlete Mental Health Summit, focused on student athletes. Let's start with, before we talk about what it is, why?
I have my own story. You know, when I played in the 1900s at Xavier, I was a soccer player that went on a visit to play soccer at Xavier. And I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. And Xavier wanted me to play basketball, which I was very new at, and did a lot of recruiting and reassurance that I would be this project that they would groom. And so my parents said, yes, we're not sitting outside anymore.
Sure.
And we like the scholarship offer. You're going to play basketball.
Did you have a favorite of the sports that you played?
Soccer,
for
sure.
Yeah. Same here.
Played it the longest. Thought I was Pele. So yeah. So I get there.
What position did you play in soccer?
Striker.
Of course.
Yeah.
Matt is a Division I soccer player.
Okay.
You can always tell a striker's ego immediately.
Yeah, I was really good.
Yeah, it doesn't help how many points you score if you let the other team score a bunch. Just a reminder.
And I did midfield too. So I had to
All right, so you're working your way back to
the
real athletes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to be cultivated and supported, but that, no knock to the coach. It's the nature of the sport in college sports. So I never played under the coach that recruited me. And so my new coach inherited a project and did not want necessarily a project.
Yeah.
And so it was rough at Xavier. And the summit, why? Because I wanted to be the person that I needed. And provide supports and resources for student athletes that are often assumed that they got it all together and they're strong and they're mentally tough and they can endure. So that's why. 30 years later, it's still the same story. Student athletes are not doing well, and we have parents that are trying their best, but often are stressor.
Is it the pressure? Is it the, especially now you have all the NIL stuff, and then you could be making money for your whole family and getting to those scholarship dollars. You're also in school and the grade. I mean, is it the pressure the main thing? Is it depression? What is the mental health concern for student athletes?
Yeah, so there's this amazing book called The Anxious Generation, and they're not lying. And I think that oftentimes we want to go straight to social media as being the culprit for that, but I do think that pressures play into that as far as creating more and more anxiety. I have been on this journey of being certified in emotional agility, and we talk a lot about parents overprotection being the #1 catalyst for the anxiety
That's
of,
the fascinating
students.
thing to me, and I just want to interrupt for a second because when you are your client, how do you refer to your client or patient, or how do you refer to
my people?
Your people.
Uh-huh.
That is the athlete or the parents, or how do you wedge yourself into the health of these two things?
Great question.
And do both sides have to be involved?
Absolutely.
Gretchen just interrupts my questions.
No, she adds a little salt to it.
Yeah.
That's all.
But the bad tasting kind of salt. But please answer my good question.
That's what it is.
That's exactly right. The one that you don't use when you get something for Christmas.
The healthy guy. So no, that's the issue, is that we're not looking at it as a systematic approach.
Sure.
So I see my high school population is growing, and I tell parents right away, if you don't want to be a part of the process, I don't know how I'm going to help your child effectively. And so at the college level, it's a little different, but I've done some Zoom with parents of college student athletes, but I do not just, help and support the high school athlete alone. Oftentimes I would work with the kid, and as soon as they walked out, I was like, well, everything I just did went to crap. Immediately.
Yeah. We don't use crap on that
I'm
word.
sorry. And I tried really hard not to use the other word. So
trust me.
This show is over.
I'm sorry.
Sort of potty mouth. How young are you starting? I'm sorry to interrupt, but like.
So I don't do anything under 13.
Okay.
And that's intentional.
Sure.
We have enough attention to kids being able to cope and not just be children and enjoy the sport. Remember when kids used to just enjoy playing basketball or soccer and things like that? And so I don't want this added stressor that the parent has recruited me in order to make sure that this kid is mentally tough at 11 years old.
Right.
I interrupted you.
Yeah.
What do you hope people take away from the summit?
A whole lot of things. I hope that a lot of folks who are doing things right take home validation. That what they're doing and how they're supporting their kid, they're on the right track. There are a lot of parents that, parenting is rough, right? It's hard. Yeah. And oftentimes we're questioning, are we doing this right? I'm hoping that coaches and youth directors are curious about other strategies in supporting their student athletes, but also creating a psychological safe culture, because oftentimes when we use the word psychological safety, and I work with college teams too doing this, first thing they're like, oh, I don't need my kids to be soft. Like they've got to go out there and they got to go to war. And I'm like, so redefining what a healthy team culture is.
So is this intended for coaches,
parents,
students, parents?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and we don't talk a whole lot about the morning session because that's where a lot of juju there, but that's invite only. We invite 21 to 25 high schools. So this is our second annual mental health summit, and the first one went off really well. So total, we had about 400 people attend. So about 250 in the morning, with 16 schools last year. We already have 21 with 2 open spots. Starring calamity snow days. So some of the kids have had to back out. But in the evening, it is specifically for athletes, parents, and coaches, and anyone who supports the whole athlete. So we have a variety of things that we cover. We have physical therapists, because overtraining is a thing, right?
When is this taking place?
It's February 23rd. It's on a Monday at Imagination Station. Doors open at 4:30. And we're doing what we called an athlete talk rotation. So last year we learned. We had a lot of panels. We had a lot of folks who monopolized the time on the panels.
Sure.
Facilitating panel is an art.
It
is an art.
Oh my God.
And so when you have coaches on the panel who are used to talking, right? And so this time around we're mimicking speed mentoring, speed dating. And so these groups of folks get to interact with the trainers.
So
yes, I think so too. My committee of 23 people have not caught the full vision.
Sure.
But hopefully, yeah, we're almost there.
I have a hard question for you potentially. What is the juxtaposition between hard and soft? It's important, right? People need a backbone and feel entitled to being safe, and athletes need to be hard to compete and push hard schedules, but there's a soft component of it that these are human beings and largely not going to be professional athletes. Can you talk a little bit about that hard balance?
Absolutely. So I don't use the word hard, but I use the word strong.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And so when we define mental health nowadays, we're defining it as the absence of uncomfortable emotions and the avoidance of adversity. And that's not what it is. It's the ability to be able to get through hard, uncomfortable adversities and emotions, and that's being strong, right? And so we can be vulnerable. Yeah, it's all these TikTok clinicians online that is saying to protect your peace, and it's like, no, peace doesn't need to be protected, right?
Well said.
And so student athletes are told to suck it up and grit it out. And back in our day, especially, these kids don't suppress feelings. They have been educated on expressing themselves. And it's just, we have to figure out a way, now that you've expressed it, how do you cope with those and how do you endure and walk through? I always use the analogy, if you're in a weight room and you want to get strong, you have to carry heavy weight, right?
Oh, well
so
said.
that's how we become strong.
Very smart.
Where do people find more information on the summit?
Eventbrite.com. We also have a Facebook event page. If you Google the Athlete Mental Health Summit, you will find all the information. We have a bonus session coming up with high school NIL. We have the leading expert that is talking about, he's written, I think, 41 or 42 high school policies on that. There's a lot of myths that creates a lot of pressures from parents, and so we're having that in the evening as well. But you can get all the information at eventbrite.com.
Very
Jonelle,
exciting.
thank you so much. When we come back, we'll wrap up this edition of the 419.
You laughed with us. You learned with us.
Hi, neighbor.
We made sure your childhood was special. Memories that could only be provided by PBS. For generations, we've given you programs that made a difference. Programs that entertained, informed, and inspired. And today is no different. This is WGTE Public Media in Toledo. It's where you belong.
Introducing The Local Thread, a community news series uniting voices and storytellers from across the region. In partnership with La Prensa, the Toledo Free Press, the Sojourner's Truth, Toledo Public Schools, and veteran journalist Jerry Anderson. The Local Thread brings you stories and conversations that connect our community. Hear it weeknights at 7 on FM 91 with early access on podcast platforms each morning. The Local Thread, only on WGTE.
Welcome back into the 419. Another great show.
So good.
Fantastic guest, Gretchen.
Yeah, great guest.
Rosie's awesome.
Yeah, she is awesome. I knew a little bit about it, but not to that extent, obviously.
Well, and we said in the break, like, I feel like both Rosie and Jonelle, like, we could have done the entire show with just them. There's so much
That's
content
not what you
there.
said during the break.
So much to offer.
Yeah.
But juxtaposition is the placing of two or more distinct elements side by side to highlight their differences, contrast, or unexpected
we know what
similarities.
it is. I don't think
Use it
you
in a
do.
sentence.
Yeah. No, use it properly.
We're out of time.
Yeah.
Three different ways for you to enjoy the program every single day.
They're juxtaposed to one another.
7 a.m. on WGTE's YouTube channel, 3 p.m. on FM 91 in Toledo, Bryan, Defiance, and Lima, and 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects channel 30.4. Look up juxtaposition and
call Gretchen.
Yeah, call Gretchen. Tell her what it means. Thank you so much for being part of another episode of the 419. Powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management. We'll see you Monday for another Mayor Monday.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.